Welcome to the CyberHut TV. My name is Simon Moffat. I'm founder of the CyberHut, and in this vendor introduction series we're looking to speak to lots of the exciting cyber and identity security vendors in the marketplace and really trying to understand what are the problems they are trying to solve. And I'm absolutely lucky to have Atul from SGNL. Atul, how are we doing?
Great. How are you? Thanks for having me.
I'm good. I'm excellent. I'm doing very well. Thanks for taking time out of your busy world. I appreciate how busy these startup journeys can be. So we have 3 questions for all the vendors. Always the same 3 questions. We'll try and get through this in a couple of minutes per question. And the first question, which is always on the lips of the buy-side community, which is, what is the problem SGNL is trying to solve?
Right. So I think the problem is that I think CISOs and heads of identity are facing an increasingly complex threat environment, and it centers around identity more and more, right? And there's a lot of sort of research saying how identity is now the biggest contributor to any kind of cyber attacks and cyber breaches and all that. But at the same time, what's happening is that the security teams are under-resourced and they're sort of stuck with some antiquated sort of ways of doing things, right? Where it's not a problem where you can just throw more people and you can get better security, because what you have is a bunch of technologies that were not built for this era, like which automatically give people standing access, where people have long-term access to resources, whereas you need a more dynamic, more sort of zero standing privilege kind of access, and that is sort of what we provide. Unlike IGA or PAM traditionally how it is done, which is sort of more about standing access. So the problem we're trying to solve is to make sure that people have zero standing access, and they can do it using a modern technology, using automatically without having to introduce more manual processes that are more error prone and stuff like that.
Super, I love that. Removing of manual processes, that's just the dream, isn't it? If we couldn't move that, we're absolutely living the dream. Okay, so second question to ask then, why is this problem becoming bigger now? Why is this a problem emerging now?
Right. So I think, clearly what we're seeing, after the growth of remote work and after growth of sort of work from home or just the mobile workforce and all that is a large part of an enterprise's resources and data and systems reside in what you can say are kind of zero trust systems. I mean, people don't like that term a lot because it's been overused a little bit, but I think it does represent a natural way of doing things right now in the cloud, because you cannot really, or it's very hard for someone to build a network infrastructure that can understand what people are doing and then be able to control access based on that. So because this cloud architecture is radically different from what we've been used to, I think what's happened over the past few years, especially the last 3 or 4 years, is that the focus of the attacks has shifted from being more network centric, where you had people trying to compromise firewalls or things like that, to being able to compromise identities, because they know that once they get hold of, let's say, site reliability engineer's identity, that they can actually get into the organization's critical resources and do a lot of damage, right? Because they have those standing privileges that they can then leverage to either encrypt all the resources and then demand a ransom, or do other kinds of damage like exfiltration, or modify the systems in a way that is harmful. So I think there's been a lot of activity now in this area where people are trying to exploit the authorization or the access that users have, and sometimes the industry overlooks this problem because what they feel is that this is an authentication problem, right? So it's like I can just put better MFA, or I can use passkeys and solve the problem, but maybe you cannot stop every such breach, right? Because there's going to be a gap somewhere, and one gap is enough to do a lot of damage. And so the real problem is, how can you lock down your access so that you can make sure that even if some identity gets compromised, that it's not like a disastrous situation, it's just sort of a limited amount of damage that you can see. So that's sort of the problem that has now emerged, and that's why we're interested in solving it. Right.
I think it sounds like it's a perfect storm, isn't it, of things like cloud, of distributed working, more systems needing protection, and then, as you say, trying to somehow reduce this blast radius impact, if you like, of the bad guys. Because the bad guys, they are lazy, and they will target the easiest and most, I guess, profit-rich part of that identity ecosystem. And I think, unfortunately, for many organizations, it sounds like it's the access control area, which is a good source of value to the bad guys. So, again, final question: why are Signal best placed to solve this? What is Signal's secret sauce in this story?
Yep. So I think let's start with sort of the team, right? I think that we have an amazing team that has some very good credentials. We've been in the identity space, solving problems for large enterprises for a really long time. We've seen everything from the early days of federated identity, the early days of SAML, all the way now to the newer standards that we're working on, which is like CAPE and SSF. So we come with a sort of a team that that has the best credentials in the industry, and so we can help larger enterprises sort of not make the mistakes that maybe if you're not having that kind of experience that you might run into, right? And the problem and the platform that we have introduced, basically what it does is creates a automatic system by which privileges can be automatically granted and taken away as needed, as recorded by your existing systems of record, right? So you're already running your business on a certain systems of record. You already have those processes in place. You don't need to do sort of separate processes to just grant or deny access. We can glean that information and we can bring it into a graph that is a highly expressive data structure that then you can write human readable policies on. One of the challenges in access control is the mess that happens when you have a large number of policies or groups which represent policies that it becomes really unmanageable, right? And you cannot solve that problem because it's just sprawl and you don't know which way a user might get access. So you need really readable policies. First of all, you need to be able to express policies in a readable way, and we can do that. And then secondly, you need a way in which you can manage those policies at the enterprise scale, and we are able to do all of that using Signal, using the modern privileged identity management platform that we have.
Fantastic. I think it sounds like you've got all of the features needed. I mean, this is definitely it's a big problem. It's an emerging problem, and I think also you need to have lots of different ways of fixing it, be that policies and the dynamic nature and all of that ability to orchestrate, which sounds like you guys have got a super way of not only handling this, but a good deep understanding of what I think is a pretty complex problem. So Atul, thank you so much for taking some time out of your busy day to give us the lowdown on Signal and the world of the dynamic access management. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for watching. This has been the Cyberhook TV on our vendor introduction series. Thank you.